Very much. Okay. Right. Ho. Thomas, please.
Good evening.
How are you?
You must be knackered by now. I'm going to take you on a little journey. Imagine you're sitting in an airplane en route to a well-deserved holiday in the sun. You're enjoying the complimentary drinks and fumble with the personal infotainment system in front of you when the captain makes an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, we experience serious technical difficulties and we will not reach our destination or any alternative airport. This is an unfortunate event, but also a good opportunity to ask you to participate in a survey and tell us if the airline shall keep the level of in-flight services or if you would prefer the airline to spend more money on better technical maintenance of its planes. This scenario is, of course, sarcastic. Passengers have boarded the plane assuming it was safe to fly because the airline's policy and the regulatory environment mandates high technical service standards for planes, and passengers, consumers, should not be confronted with a decision between frills or safety. But back to the draft LTP. The Council decided not to cut the core services it delivers. Almost the entire budget of $10.6 billion over 10 years is dedicated to maintaining these core services, and a mere 3% of the budget is directed towards projects that have direct impact on climate change mitigation. Within the LTP period falls the first emission target the Council has set itself to halve emission by 2030 compared with 2016-17 levels. Allocating only 3% of the budget to climate change mitigation, does that mean we are on track to meet the Council's 2030 target? Well, Christchurch's 2022-23 greenhouse gas emission inventory tells a different story. We are on halfway mark between 2016-17 and 2019-30. We should now emit about 25% less than 2016, but Christchurch emissions have not changed significantly since 2016. The LTP consultation document makes an ominous statement. Even with a level of direct and indirect investment, it will still be unlikely that we will reach our emission reduction targets as a council or as a city. The CCC website states climate change is the biggest challenge of our time. And over the last years, Council has released emission reduction targets and related policies like sustainability policy, resilience policy, biodiversity strategy, etc. They all should ensure that the city does its bit to stay within survivable limits for climate disruption. The LTP is all about implementation. And in the LTP documentation, there is no apparent link between the money and effort that is going to be spent over the next 10 years and the various policy objectives. In some cases, it might be very difficult to quantify policy objectives, but this is certainly not the case with greenhouse gas emissions. The proposed LTP fails to address the biggest challenge of our times. It fails to document by how much greenhouse gas emissions will be reduced by the activities detailed in the LTP. What is the purpose of planning and budgeting, for instance, for world-class facilities, when we do not reach our destination, a survivable climate? Christchurch's LTP for the next 10 years must reflect and document the transition to a low-carbon economy. It must reflect the commitment to fulfill our local, national, and international obligations. That's me.
I was expecting a lot more.
Fair enough.
No, thank you very much for going to the effort. That's very good. Yanni, please.
Yeah, thank you. I was interested in your comment that Council does not seem to support the introduction of more EVs. There's no mention of supporting or mandating charging stations. I was really interested what led you to make that point in your submission.
So can you repeat that Council?
So you had a comment in here that council does not seem to support the introduction of more EVs, and there's no mention of supporting mandating charging stations. And I was just interested what your reason was for putting that comment into your submission.
Well, this was just one example that when we radically have to change transport and other emission sources, then you would expect that there is a lot of policy around how we can do that in the LTP, and I couldn't find that. But I think you're all familiar with the district plan and with the overlays the district plan has. And wouldn't it be nice if we have similar overlays in the LTP where we see this money is spent for outcomes? That is much more complicated, but just imagine the outcomes in the LTP document are all what I call desiderata. They're wonderful high-level things, but they are not quantified in that respect that we can say after 3 years or 5 years, oh, we have to change tack because we're spending a lot, we're spending money, but we're not getting results. And we need to quantify that much more than it's currently in the LTP. And that's also what's in the Local Government Act. The Government Act clearly says resources, money, and outcomes. But the outcomes, that level, doesn't match with the resources.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming in. Okay.